Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today we are going to take a look at a theory that hit me like a ton of bricks when I really looked at the image revealed for the live-action Ahsoka series upcoming. Now, a lot of people have already pointed out that the interdimensional void known as the world between worlds, or rather the door to it bears a strong resemblance to the O in the Ahsoka logo. The font is also just done in a way that really calls up the image of the world between worlds, or the Veil of the Force. People are speculating on what that might mean moving forward for the series, but I think that they might be on the wrong track, or on the right track but looking in the wrong direction, because I think that it's not leading forward in time to the next series, but might actually be pointing back in time to the beginning of The Mandalorian, if it's not doing both. First, let's take a look at the beginning of Baby Grogu's story. He's in the Jedi Temple at the end of the Clone Wars. Darth Vader and the clones under his command are marching into the Jedi Temple bent on slaughter. Somehow, Baby Grogu survives this and is spirited away. Then his memory goes dark until he is found by Mando. For the first time? Maybe. So, what happened in the temple on that fateful day? We know Baby Grogu can protect himself to some degree with the Force, maybe even enough to fend off several clone troopers. However, doing this process of using the Force leaves him drained and exhausted, as we saw with both the Mudhorn and the stormtroopers in Moff Gideon's vessel. So it's no stretch of the imagination to think that Baby Grogu might have taken out a few clones before dropping, if they reached him. But that still leaves the question of who picked Baby Grogu up again after he fell. And then, how did they get out of the temple after that? The clones and Anakin had all the upper entrances covered. They had the high ground, as it were. And while there might have been secret exits in the lower levels, you would think that Darth Sidious would have thought of that contingency and taken it into account, maybe sending clones into the lower levels. Then there's the issue of Grogu's age, not from an in-universe perspective, but from a storytelling perspective. Now, the show made a huge deal about Grogu being 50 years old. If he is still a toddler at 50 and comes from a species with a 900-year lifespan, then it is plausible to assume that he will be a child for long past the time our beloved Din Djarin has died of old age. This is perfectly biologically plausible, but it would be heartbreaking from a storytelling perspective, and worse than being heartbreaking, it would be unsatisfying for the audience. We desperately need Mando to see. We desperately need to see Mando watch Baby Yoda graduate, either as a Jedi or as a Mandalorian. Also, we have seen Baby Grogu grow mentally and even physically in the course of the show. He's more confident when he walks, he communicates more, he is clearly opening up and looking more colorful in his skin. His face even looks rounder and his ears seem longer than at the beginning of the show, suggesting that in the short time frame that's passed in the show, we don't know how long that is because time is relative in Star Wars, he has shown signs of growing and changing, which he really shouldn't have if it took him 50 years to get this far. When this is added to the concept that he probably regressed mentally during his time of captivity and probably should be more mature than he is or appears to be, it brings his aging process much closer to a human's like Din's, at least close enough that Din could watch him grow up. So I think that the 50 years old thing is a blind. I think that that while that might be his chronological age, physically he is much closer to 30 or even 20 years old. How can that be, you ask? You see, the world between worlds. All we know about Baby Grogu's age is that he spent years at the Jedi Temple and was there until the end of the Clone Wars. And we learned this through Ahsoka. Ahsoka, who has entered the world between worlds at least once, and whose show logo has the symbology of the world between worlds built into it. So, did Ahsoka rescue Baby Yoda from the temple via the world between worlds? Did she pull him forward into the future and leave him for Din to find there? Well, first off, she has strong and deep convictions about doing something like that, as we've seen. Also, Grogu would have recognized her if she had. However, there is someone who totally would have pulled Baby Yoda out from the temple and either moved him to a safer location in that time or brought him into the future, and thus explaining the oddity of his age, and who Baby Grogu wouldn't necessarily have recognized the first time that he saw him. Din Djarin. Think about it. Through some Force-type shenanigans, present Din, who loves Grogu with all his heart, has that shiny Beskar armor, and has gone through significant mental and moral growth over the last 2 seasons, gets dragged into the world between worlds and sees a portal open to the temple just as Anakin is doing his thing above above in the temple. Then Din rescues baby Grogu and either locates him safely on a ship headed off planet in that time frame, and then returns to the world between worlds himself, or just straight up brings baby Yoda Grogu into the world between worlds and leaves him at a safer place in the future for himself to find. But wouldn't little Grogu have recognized Mando the moment he met him in the series? Not necessarily. Mando now is a very different person than Mando at the beginning of the series. Most obviously, his armor is completely different, so that baby Grogu's eyes wouldn't have been able to recognize him. Mando looks like a completely different character than at the beginning of the series. Also, Mando's emotional state would have been completely different. At the beginning of the series, Mando was in a dark and depressed state of mind, so baby Grogu's empathic abilities would not have been able to recognize the love-driven man who literally moved worlds to snatch him up from the darkness of the temple, not in the near-broken man that Mando was at the beginning of the series. To baby Grogu's perspective, the dirty and battered Mandalorian, with nothing but a rifle, a flamethrower, and a battered Razor Crest, would look nothing like the gleaming hero with a shining spear who flew in on the Slave One. So, I see no reason for baby Grogu to have recognized Mando at the beginning of The Mandalorian if this theory is true. But what do you think, my wonderful viewers? Is Mando going to slip back in time and pull baby Grogu from the temple? Will Ahsoka break her code and do it? Leave a like if you agree and leave a comment blasting my theory like the poor old Razor Crest if you disagree. Check out the links below if you want to check out a heartbreaking book about fathers and sons. Peace out, my wonderful viewers.